Oh, okay. The stream is live now. I'm gonna make you host back, and Victor is gonna stay as your TA.
Great. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome, Victor.
Good morning, James. Good morning, James. Good morning, Pam. Good morning, Carolyn, James.
Good morning, everyone.
And Elliot and Lynn. Good to see you all today.
Absolutely. It's good
gray.
to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's a little gray where I am, but you got to have gray skies and rain to make the flowers grow. So I can't complain.
I hear you.
So let me do a little informal poll this morning before we get going. How many of you are in the Zoom call today on a mobile device, either an iPad, a tablet, or a phone? Anybody? iPad, tablet, or phone? You're all on like a laptop. Interesting. Okay. And we don't have Elliot's input. You can tell us what it might be. I think most of you are new faces to me. I think. And that's great. I really like to see some new faces in my classes. Anybody today, this is your first Get Set Up class of any Get Set Up class. Oh, fabulous, Pam. Glad to have you.
Just found out about Get Set Up. I'm so excited. I've got myself signed up for so many things. I'm not going to have time for anything else.
Well, that's good to hear. We love that. Now, okay, now I know Joanne, I know Ivy. Great to have you all with us this morning. I did an informal poll earlier before Joanne, Elliot, and before Joanne and Ivy joined. Are either of you connecting with a mobile device like a phone or a tablet or iPad? Or Carol?
No.
You're all on.
No.
That's interesting. I was told yesterday that 80% of Get Set Up users are on a mobile device, which I found interesting. And it looks like this morning, none of you are. No problem with that. Doesn't matter. Glad to see you all. Did anybody here watch Rick Steves last night?
I did.
And I sure know Joanne did. She was one of the lucky people that got to be live on the call. there were so many questions coming thick and fast. That was one of the best things I've seen lately. Rick talks a mile a minute, and you don't really want to interrupt him because he's not. He's saying really great stuff. There was nothing like, oh, I wish Rick would stop talking so they could ask him another question. No, I just was enjoying everything he said. I took two pages of notes, scarfed up lots of stuff from him, and of course, I've always loved Rick. We have very similar travel philosophies. And he's given me some terms to use, like live like a local, a temporary local. He used a term last night. It was I have to dig up my notepad. It was learn the local drum beat or something like that. It was really good. I enjoyed that. Hi, Regina. How are you doing? Good to see you this morning. We're going to give it about one more minute before we start, just for any people that are connecting still. I do want to introduce Victor, our Get Set Up TA. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and Victor will helpfully gather them up for me so we can answer them. This is a pretty small class, so you also can probably just interject with a question. When it gets to be 20 or 30 people, it's a little overwhelming if people just speak up. But with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with the 9 or 10 people, that's fine. And I'll just mention to Regina, I sent you an email about participating on a panel discussion in a class. So I'm setting up a class for the week after next on traveling solo. I think that is a big topic. And Rick touched on it a bit last night. So that's going to become a fairly regular class every couple of weeks. But the first class I'm going to do with a panel of experts who are I've traveled solo a lot too. I'm married. And I love to have my wife travel with me. It's my preferred method of travel. But sometimes she hasn't wanted to go somewhere when I've needed to. And when in my old job, I often needed to get away for a couple of weeks. And she was like, fine, you can go. She let me take off and go to Scotland and hike for 2 weeks or something like that. So my preferred method is to travel with one of my children. Well, she let me go to Spain for 5 weeks by myself. I got to say that was the longest time she let me go somewhere. But anyway, I've traveled solo a lot, but I'd like to bring some other folks in, especially some women, because I think traveling solo, it feels like a different issue for women than men. So looks like I've got a panel with 2 women and 1 man. And then we'll have lots of learners who are experienced or would like to be experienced as solo travelers who can talk about their travel experience. And then we'll go forward from there. I see Joanne saying here she traveled solo until 2018. Great. And Joanne's also saying he was great and he watched him on the website every Monday night. You know, I haven't had a chance to catch those Monday night Rick Steves classes or whatever he does, Rick Steves on his TV. But I'm going to try to catch the next one.
He sits in the same room and talks.
That's probably why it looks so good at his. It looked like he was sitting at the kitchen counter, and the lighting was all great, and the camera was really good. And I thought, this is a professional setup. This is not just somebody that jumped in. Oh yeah, sure, I'll join your Zoom call. And anyway. Was very professionally done. I can tell by the lighting because I have to be professional in my backgrounds and lighting. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody. I'm going to start by sharing my screen. I'm going to most of today's class is actually going to be sharing my iPhone with you because we're going to be talking, not most of it, but a lot of it will be about talking about some of the online apps you can use in your phone, plus a few sites. And I'll show you some of those as well, some of the online sites such as Airbnb. Pam says she wants to travel solo. Your spouse is a homebody. Okay, I know some people like that. Don't worry. I walked the Camino de Santiago 500 miles in 2018. And it's a life-changing experience for thousands and thousands and thousands of people per year. But yet I saw a guy post on an online forum that it was kind of like, I don't get what the big deal is. And a lot of us were like, whoa, that's interesting. Okay, let me do a screen share with you. And pull up a slideshow using online and mobile apps. And hopefully you all see something that says, up, let's get to the very beginning. Using online and mobile travel apps to plan travel. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Good, we're all on the same virtual page. I love it. This is a class that this is the second time we've done it. Last time I did it last week. It was a lot of fun. I think everybody enjoyed it. And by the way, let me say today, a couple ground rules. Put your questions in the chat if you want. I'll also pause for questions. And if you have ideas, I'll ask you for them and you can tell me about your ideas, because I don't have every possible idea about online or travel apps. And there were some things mentioned last week, like TripAdvisor. And importantly, if you have an idea, if you put it in chat, then I have a record of it and I can use it for next time. So that's great. Sometimes that's the best way to get me your ideas for the next class. I'm Russ Eanes, your guide. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I formerly was a book publisher in another life, and where my favorite thing as a publisher was to help authors put their ideas between the two covers of a book. I am an avid traveler with about 16 overseas trips, most of them in the last 8 to 9 years. Didn't go anywhere last year overseas. Only went one place in 2019. In fact, I haven't been on an airplane since October of 2019. I used to travel a lot by airplane. My job required me to travel a fair amount. So I was on airplanes a lot, but I loved getting on a flight, a red-eye flight, and heading to Europe, or an afternoon flight and heading to South America. I love all the energy I get from working with older adults like you. So we're a great community. And Get Set Up helps you learn useful things from people like you, so you can do wonderful things. You know, all the instructors and or guides and Get Set Up are over 55. So we're peer-to-peer teaching. I love that. We learn from each other. So again, I said, if you've got an idea, I'd like to hear it today. This is, we all learn from each other. And ideally, we can see you when your cameras are on. You can request a recording of this class afterwards. You email help@getsetup.io. If you're joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and register for class. And we are live today. So this is out on the Get Set Up TV and on Facebook Live. And by the way, we're not paid to promote any specific products. So anything I mentioned today, there's nobody giving us money to promote their site or what they have. Our objectives today, we're going to look at some tips about online travel services for planning travel and making reservations. We're going to research travel apps for services and others, and we're going to look at some other useful apps that you can use for travel. They're not necessarily built for travel, but they're very handy for travel, like Google Translate. And I'm not on the agenda today. Is I can't tell you when you can travel where. That is like the biggest question all the travelers have. And I'll tell you something. I'll make a confession. I've been, tapped by Get Set Up to do a lot of travel classes, and my travel bug is just biting me really badly. It's I can hardly stand it some days. So if you're like me, we just have to stay put and wait for what is going to develop. I'm going to show you a little later some of my online apps that I use for travel. I do use Airbnb, and Rick made an excellent comment about Airbnb last night, and I am all totally with Rick that in many places Airbnb has supplanted the local housing market. So I am conscious of that, and I still want to promote Airbnb. By promote, I mean just encourage people to use it, and we'll look at it today. I'm actually gathering some other sites, some other places you can go. I don't have them for today's class. I'll probably just do maybe an extra class on that, where you can travel inexpensively and even get inexpensive lodging. I actually belong to the Mennonite church and grew up Mennonite, and Mennonites have something called Mennonite Your Way, where they offer their home at a very inexpensive lodging to other people. And that's how I've traveled and gotten lodging around the country. But I've even used it overseas, stayed in a place for a week in Switzerland that was advertised there. Another site that I use frequently is booking.com. I do a lot of my reservations for planning, at least if I don't make the reservations, for airlines on Orbitz. I also do car rentals on Orbitz. There are many services similar to Orbitz. I like Orbitz because they know me well for many years and they've gathered all my reservations. So if I'm going somewhere and I've got a plane reservation I made through Orbitz, they know it. If I've made a car reservation or a hotel reservation through Orbitz, they know it, and they're kind of all on the app. And so I can find that quite easily. There's some other places I'm going to show you today. So there's a site you can go to called Scott's Cheap Flights, and they send me emails every day. Sometimes I get 2 a day when they find great deals on flights. And when we get to the apps, I'll show you some other things like Hopper, which is a way you can go searching for good deals on airline flights for the future. And by the way, Airbnb, Booking, Orbitz, but not Scott's Cheap Flight are all available as apps you can use also on your phone. So if I like to do a lot of my work, especially when I have to do lots of typing and stuff on my laptop. I just find it hard to see and to type correctly and get information in on my phone. It's just smaller. My eyes are a little older and I don't see that small stuff quite as easily on my phone as on my laptop. So I use my laptop, but then it's all on my phone on the apps. So that's what I like. We'll get to this and I'll send you that. You'll get an email after the class is over with notes from today's class. And I will mention all these things that you can use. So if you're scrambling, trying to figure that out, this will all come to you. Some of the apps that I'll show you today are Google Translate, Globe Convert, and Altimeter, INRIX or Waze for traffic, Yelp. Some little fun things like tides near me. You go to the ocean, you want to know what the tide is going to be. You know, when the high tide, low tide is, you can go to tides near me and it'll show you. I also am going to demonstrate some of the national train apps. So let's say, I'm thinking traveling to Europe. Let's say you want to go to Germany and use the train. There's Deutsche Bahn, DB, has an app. They have the same app, and I've used it in Scotland. I've used one in France. I haven't used it in Spain, but you could on your phone. Then you can have your ticket and you can make reservations and check things like that. And in the US, I use Amtrak and airline apps. Just a little hint, I often will research flights on Orbitz. And then if it's one of the regular airlines that I use, and I've largely flown United and Delta, not promoting them, they just happen to be the ones that United's hub is in Dulles Airport, and that's the closest airport to me. And so I became a regular with United starting about 10, 12 years ago because that was their hub. I also use Delta, and I've occasionally flown American, but again, a lot of this has to do with where you're located and where the hub is. They're very similar, all of them. Amtrak is great. I like to travel by train. You can also get apps for buses, Bolt Bus. We use one here called Tripper Bus. So these are all ways you can get reservations. By the way, I'm a big advocate on using buses. They've really changed buses. These buses that give low fares and go directly between major cities. My wife and I travel occasionally to New York to visit one of our daughters. And my favorite way to go into New York is by bus or train. I do not like to drive there, but I have. And besides the traffic issues and the directions and figuring out where you're going, you got to figure out where to park if you go to New York. So my last resort is to drive into New York. Anyway, nothing against New York. Love it. It's a great place to visit. And I'll also talk a little about, you can use Apple Wallet. Apple Wallet will keep boarding passes and tickets for you. You can usually, if you make them on your phone on an app, you can have the option of saving it in your Apple Wallet, which is really handy. My wife and I always do that. We do our our boarding passes are on our phones. And if I get both the boarding passes for my wife and for me, because I've made the reservations, let's say, I can send her through the Apple Wallet. I can send her boarding pass, so she's got it on her phone. I like that because, frankly, it's only one thing you got to keep track of. And I figure if I've lost track of my phone for my trip, I'm really up a creek without a paddle in many ways. So that's one thing I'm going to really make sure I keep track of. So I'm going to stop I'm going to stop this show for 1 second and just look at some sites. So I'm going to just search for, and it's telling me something about ad block. Very nice. I'm going to look up Airbnb. And let's see. Oops, Airbnb rentals. Okay, so I've been an Airbnb member for a long time, and this if you know it, you're familiar with it. It looks like this. They know you. You sign in, and I don't host. In other words, I don't use Airbnb to host. And you can just very easily search a place you want to go. You can do anywhere around the world. You can add the dates that you want to travel and how many people it'll be. You can also further refine that search by saying, I want to search for rooms in a house, or rooms in an apartment or house, or I want an entire apartment or guest apartment or something like that. So anyway, just Rick Steves made some mention about Airbnb, about many major cities like Barcelona or Amsterdam kind of taking over the local housing market. I get that. I'm sympathetic to it. I usually use it though. My wife and I like to travel and stay in guest apartments or in rooms in houses where we have facilities for cooking, because we like to make our own meals when we travel abroad. And that is in not just Europe, but that is in the States if we're traveling, or to South America where we've been. So let me just, are there any questions so far about anything I was talking about? I really haven't covered that much material, but I want to make sure everybody knows how I've gotten to Airbnb. Okay.
When you say
I was
that-
wondering,
Yes, Pam.
oh, sorry. Do you like Airbnb over VRBO?
They're different. I've used both. A VRBO is where I've done more like a week rental.
Oh,
Or 2 weeks. Yeah, VRBO works well. That's usually a good, what my family uses that when we want like a 1 or 2 week rental, especially for a house. What's interesting about Airbnb is that a lot of, and you can also search, just do a search like bed and breakfast in an area. My wife and I like bed and breakfasts. A lot of bed and breakfasts now are advertised through Airbnb. So here's the other thing about Airbnb. I've been traveling through places, and I'll give an example that's actually just in the US. Last fall, I biked between Pittsburgh and Washington, DC, 335-mile Rails to Trails. It's a phenomenal ride. By the way, I'll be doing a class on that next week. I think it's 11 o'clock Tuesday if you want to come join and see how I did that. There were sections of that where there weren't towns nearby where I wanted to stop, or very large towns, and I couldn't find a hotel or a bed and breakfast. And I searched Airbnb, and there was actually an Airbnb, a cabin or something like that advertised. So that's why I like Airbnb. It can also give you less common places. Was there another question about Airbnb?
I didn't have a question about Airbnb, but about the air train apps. Does Eurorail have a train app?
Ivy, I'm not sure. When we get there, we'll have a look at that. I know what you're talking about, Eurorail, because that's where you can often make reservations through Eurorail on any one of the national trains.
Okay.
We'll get to that. That's a good question, Ivy. Okay, Airbnb, by the way, you works not nationally, internationally. So I could, a place I want to go nearby is Harper's Ferry, and see it pops right up to Harper's Ferry WV. And let's say now I want to go there Friday the 23rd, and I want to stay until Sunday the 25th. I can add guests. There's going to be 13 or above. There'll be 2 of us. So now I can do the search. And what I like about Airbnb, it gives me a map over here on the right. And the map is, here's Harper's Ferry right in the middle. it gives me the total price for those 2 days. And it looks like one of the places is a favorite of mine. That's what that heart means. And it is, I think that's what it means. Hang on, folks. No, that's a different place. You can mark a place as a favorite. It was the one different one that I was thinking of. If you like it, and then you can make lists of places. So I can have a whole list called Harper's Ferry. It's about 2 hours from where we live, and it's on the Chesapeake and Ohio C&O towpath along the Potomac River. And it's one of my wife and my favorite places to go. And we like to go up there and spend a weekend. I'm also writing a book about my bike trip and about the area. So I'd like to go up there, also do photography and research. And we've kept a list. So you can create a list of a place you'd like to go. If you want to go to Munich, you can create a list called Munich. And if you want to go to Hawaii, you can create a list called Hawaii or Seattle or wherever you're going, Chicago. And it'll keep and you can mark places as favorites. So when you're going there again, you can zoom in and find your list. They call it trips. So if you go onto trips, it shows you upcoming trips. I have no upcoming trips. These are all the places. If you hit pass, these are all the places I've been. So Harper's Ferry, you can see where I was. Pittsburgh, Meyersdale. This goes way back in history. Look, it goes back to Cornwall when I was biking across England. Dennis, that's in Massachusetts. Newtown, St. Boswell, that's a trip from 2016 in the UK. So it keeps track of all the places that trips you took. So it gathers together a trip for all the reservations you've made in that location. I was in Pittsburgh last September, and here's the 2 places I stayed. Also, let's just go back to where we were on Airbnb. You can find those favorites that you have. So anyway, this is very useful. You can spend time. It gives you price and geography. So you can really decide what's more important to you, or whether they're both important. So Airbnb is good. Another site I use, I'm just going to type it in here, is booking.com. I use it a lot. And here's an advantage. Because I use the site a lot, and because it's also an app on my phone, it recognizes me. It gives me some little perks because I'm a regular. So I'm not going to sign into it right now, but booking.com has everything from hotels to bed and breakfast to guest apartments. I find that my wife and I found some nice guest apartments in Europe through booking.com. It has other stuff. It doesn't just do, they now do flight and hotel, car rentals. You can do it. So booking.com can become a one-stop shop, kind of like Orbitz. And I will just put in Orbitz. If you don't know it, it is a great one-stop shop for all that stuff for travel. They also have hotels, flights, cars, packages. I don't do those. Things to do. You want some advice? Orbitz will give you that if you want. But since again, Orbitz knows me, and so Orbitz, look, it has some of the places I've stayed in the past. I think, no, it isn't. I thought these were places I've been. Nope, they're just advertising some places to me. The founder's in. But Orbitz does also, if I log in, it tracks the trips I've made in the past. So I can, if I'm like, I want to go stay in that place in Santiago that I was in 3 years ago, where was it? It's got that history for me. So I really like that. I will also show you Scott's Cheap Flight. I can spell it right. There it is, Scott's Cheap Flights. So we'll search that one. Scott's Cheap Flights has 2 kinds of services. One is a paid service, and one is free. And I join it. It costs $49 a year, and that's how I get these daily emails of flights. It'll tell you, like, you can fly to Iceland for $200, and it'll tell you, go make that reservation today. You can fly to Chicago for $150 or whatever you have, and so you can get you can get free flight alerts. That's a limited number of alerts. So that's. If you want the full service, you have to pay $49. If you're thinking of traveling abroad, Or yeah, no, actually, it's not just international. It's national flights as well as abroad. And you think you want to do it quite a bit, and you're looking for inexpensive flights, and you have a flexible schedule. Scott's Cheap Flights is a good idea. If you're inflexible, like you're only going to be able to travel next October, Scott's will only be tempting to you. In other words, they'll tell you about stuff you can do next week or tomorrow or in June, but you can't go. So I don't find it as useful. I'm going to show you something else that I find as good as Scott's Cheap Flights that you can use if you have a certain time window you want to travel. What's nice about Scott's is they've sometimes airlines put up ticket prices that are sort of a mistake, and Scott's find those and they let you know. They'll say this is available for the next 12 hours. Go for it. They'll also find just airline deals that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Just to mention something about Orbitz, because we were looking at that briefly. Southwest Airlines, which is a good airlines, does not participate in Orbitz. I don't know about some of the others, but I have a feeling they don't participate in any of the search engines like booking.com flights or Orbitz. You have to go to their site to find their flights. Southwest is a very good airline for domestic flights. And what's nice about them is there's really no tricks to their fares. In other words, if they advertise a certain price, it's that price. And there are other prices you can pay, maybe that day or around that period of time. And it's each leg. So if you're flying from, if I'm flying from Washington to San Francisco and back, it'll give me the price for each of those legs. Rather than trying to give me different prices for different parts of the flight. Any question on these? Because I'm going to go over to my phone now and show you some of the things on my phone. But if anybody's got a comment or a question about any of these, maybe you use these, you like them or don't like them. And by the way, you can switch off notifications for them if you're getting too many emails. Don't hesitate to do that. I can find those annoying. You can also have them forwarded to if you have Gmail, for example, you can have them forwarded into a particular folder. And if you want to go look in that folder once a week, you can do that. So you don't have to clean it up every day. Okay, let's check the chat here. Let me just check the questions. Okay, thanks to Regina. It's got a message about something I'm going to check. And someone did ask about Airbnb over. Yeah, that was Pam, but VRBO, I tend to use that more for vacation with the family. Will it give you the name of the airline before you book? Good question, Ivy. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Right? Sometimes they say you got to book it to see the airline. I don't like that. I don't take that bait. I want to know what airline I'm flying on. I'm not going to give any airline recommendations. That's just not a good idea. I flew United for 10 years. I was a frequent flyer because I flew out of Dulles Airport about every month or more often for my work, and it was worth becoming a silver category because I got some extra perks. One of which was if I got pumped off a flight, I was the first one in line to get rebooking. But also I got boarded early, which isn't that irritating when you get on your plane and you're like like your section 4 and all those people are sitting in there and they've taken up the overhead bins. But I have to admit, I did like getting on the plane early, getting my bag stowed and sitting down and reading whatever I brought along. I don't have that anymore. I've given that up, and that's okay. So let me stop sharing this and share with you my phone right here, and show you some of the travel apps. And then you also can share with me any of the travel apps that you want to recommend. Okay, so I'm going to do screen mirroring on that. And you now can see my phone. And I will show you, I have a little folder called Travel right there with all my travel apps in it. And I'll explain some of these to you. And I'll demonstrate some of them. For example, I have Global Convert. If you know this one, you know that Global Convert is cool because it does just about everything you want when you're traveling. So if you want to know how much a pound is going to cost you when you go overseas, today the rate looks like 1 pound is $1.37, or actually almost $1.38. If you want to know, for example, what the euro conversion rate is, I've kept the euro as a favorite. So you have this little hearts, you can save something as a favorite. And one of my favorites is the euro to US dollar. So euro was almost $1.20. That helps you if you're getting ideas for how much you're going to need to travel somewhere. Sometimes when you're making reservations or things, it'll do a conversion for you into dollars. But like when I walked the Camino de Santiago, I knew that I needed about 35 euros a day, which meant by this conversion rate, I was going to need $42 a day. For currency, it can do all sorts of things. You can do area, someone's telling you how many hectares they're in. The other one I tend to use a lot is length. So if I want to know kilometers, kilometers to miles, and I put in 1 kilometer is 0.62 miles. And then I can just flip the little thing here and it'll swap it and it'll say 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. If you go, if you're an American and you go overseas or go to Canada or Mexico, I think there's one other country in the world that's still using this old, what they call the English system. Even English don't use it, though. Weirdly, the British still have miles on their road signs. I've got a bunch of Brit friends. I'm going to have to ask them why they do that. I may have asked once, but I've forgotten. They use miles. They don't use kilometers for big distances. Don't ask me why. But everything else is in kilometers. If you want to know the temperature. So I've learned these things. I know how far. I know that 5 kilometers is 3 miles. 25 kilometers is 15 miles. You can also do, let's say the other one is temperature that I use a lot. In fact, it's probably one of my favorites. So if you're in Europe and you see a sign flashing and it says it's 15 degrees Celsius, you'll know that's about 59. Again, I've learned that 21 Celsius is a really good temperature. That's about, so I put in the wrong temperature. 51 would be really hot. 21 is almost 70 degrees. So it's like the perfect temperature. So I've learned those kinds of things when I'm traveling. It's helpful. But if you can't remember all that, you can use this app, Global Convert. I really like it. Another handy one, actually, I'm going to pop out of here for 1 second and show you Google Translate. If you don't know this, maybe a lot of you do. You can select languages that you want to translate from. So if you're in a French restaurant and you want to know what the translation of a menu is, you can not only enter the text, but you can bump on your camera and then you can hold the camera over something. And if you hold it over some writing, you can just, this is actually English, so it doesn't make any sense. But let's say you want to make this, you just want that to go from English to French. You hit the camera and you go right over the text and, it'll translate for you. So Chronicle Books, okay, that's what this says in English. Yeah, I'm translating it into French, and it says it is. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Well, it gave it to me in French. Livre Chronique. Anyway, Livre Chronicles. That was right. So I use Google Translate. Some people will say like they've gone into Romania and they need to ask where the bathroom is, so they've got Google Translate and they type it in English and then they say translate that in Romanian and they show their phone to somebody and they go, oh, you're looking for the bathroom. Google Translate works over Wi-Fi or data. So if you're not in a Wi-Fi hotspot on Wi-Fi or you don't have data where you're traveling, it won't work unless you download it. You can download a language the whole language library onto your phone. So you can use it when you're offline. Very handy thing to do. So that's just one I wanted to show people that I don't keep in my apps folder. The other one I don't keep in my apps folder that I use all the time is Google Maps. I have an iPhone. The Maps app is built into my phone, but I prefer Google Maps. And I won't show you this today. I think we might even do a whole class on this, but when I'm traveling, let's say I'm planning a trip to Colombia, which I took in 2018, I can find all the places that we're planning on staying and some interesting sites nearby, and I can mark them on my map. I save them as a certain type of favorites place. And then that's what I do that on my desktop, because again, it's bigger and it's a bit easier to use. You can do it with your phone, but then later when I'm traveling and I'm on my phone, I want to know, am I near where I'm supposed to be staying? I can pull up my phone and with Google Maps, and if I'm in a zone that I can see them in the data, or just locate me with GPS, it'll tell me whether I'm there. And by the way, Google Maps, if you are offline somewhere and don't have good data, and I've experienced this, you can save a map ahead of time. Your phone, even when it's in airplane mode, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong here, but even when it's in airplane mode, always has a GPS locator going. So it can tell you where you are anywhere in the world. Regina, did you have a comment or a question?
I just wanted to say also that I let me just say this first, Russ. You got your work cut out for you, okay? Because with all of the people, especially myself, that's looking forward to traveling again, I found there's so many aspects to the traveling, from us doing it from scratch, from the start to our end, okay? There's a lot of steps, and there's a lot of intricate detail information that needs to be shared. But I found also the map is fine. I used Google Maps in Taipei, but what I did was I printed off my map from the hotel that I stayed in to the locations as to what I wanted to see, where I wanted to go. So when I got to Taipei, I was a pro coming out of that hotel door, making that right turn, going to the next corner and another right turn, and there's the bus stop. Okay, so you become a pro at travel when you use Google Maps, especially if you're using your phone or if you're using a print off from your printer. It is always good to have that as a backup, because you never know about the phone. Currency is also an issue. I had a layover in Shanghai before I even got to Taipei. So what I did was I purchased a small amount of currency here in the States before I even went on my trip. So when I got to Shanghai, I could go to the local restaurant and get myself something to eat. Or I had the currency to get something out of their vending machine. It's the same way when I got to Taipei at the airport. I was hungry. I already had a little currency where I could just use that currency when I got there. And then you go to the local bank and you just exchange, currency. If you get broke, but I never ran into that issue. But anyway, like I just wanted to say, there is a lot, and Russ has his work cut out.
Regina, you gave an excellent suggestion. That's why I really hope you come to our class and be on the panel for traveling solo, because I keep foreign currency when I come back. I don't keep a lot of it because if the exchange rate varies, you might find yourself with some real expensive currency. However, I've been following the euro for 20 years. And so when I came back last time, I knew that when the euro was like $1.05, that was a really good price. And so I bought some extras. But just like you said, Regina, that's an excellent suggestion. Have a little bit of that currency in your pocket when you get there, even if you're making a leftover, so you can use the vending machine. Excellent suggestion. That's why I've got pounds and euros and Swiss francs. And, you know, I've done the same thing. I've actually put out on Facebook to my friends in town. I said, anybody got euros they don't want? I did this before my last trip. I had 3 or 4 friends contact me, said, yeah, we got some after our last trip. We don't know what to do with them. And I said, the current exchange rate is, you know, whatever it was that day. And they go, fine. And I just paid them in US dollars. And I had some extra euros when I landed. And you can do that with other currencies. So that's really good suggestion.
Yes,
And
it is.
I tend to get cash from an ATM when I travel, which will be one of my tips, because I'm going to do a top 10 travel tips class. And, you know, I also got to have Regina help me do a class called Planning to Travel, because a lot of people, it's daunting to plan a trip. So I can give some suggestions to help with take a little bit of the fear out of that, hopefully.
It can be so much fun for you too. It can be, it just, to me, it just enhances my excitement of taking my trip, because for one thing, you can pat yourself on your shoulder. You did all of this yourself. You know what I'm saying? You didn't go to a travel agency or whatever. You did it all on your own.
That's right. It's rewarding.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Russ.
I was going to say, it's very rewarding. You're right.
It is. It is. I was so tickled when I got off that plane in Taipei, just knowing that I did this on my own. Okay. It's just me.
And for those that don't know, Regina went to Taipei for a month by herself.
30 days. I didn't do anything but eat the whole time. That was the purpose of my trip, was just to go and eat their food. That's all I wanted to do. But I ended up doing so much more, you know, and becoming such a better person because of what I did.
I've lost there it is. It's back again. Okay. So excellent suggestions. Let me show you a few other apps that I don't by any means have them all. I'm going to show you a few unusual ones before I come back to the typical ones. I have one that I love for travel. By the way, it's called Altimeter. And I'm one of these people that hikes a lot, and I like to go up on high altitudes when I hike mountaintops. And I found, I was searching for a watch that would have an altimeter built into it. And then I thought, you know, I bet that's on a phone. And sure enough, there's an altimeter app. It's free. And I use it to do 2 things. One is to, when I get to a certain altitude or location that's high up, you can save it. So I have a whole bunch of, this is my current location, by the way. I'm at 1,476 feet, and there is the GPS location, 38 in Rockingham, that's County, Virginia, US. But I also have ones that I have saved from previous trips. And like when I was in Italy, here's one from the place I stayed in Italy. And that location was at 1,349 feet. A few years ago, here's another place I stayed in, Poggio Bustoni. I want to know how high that elevation was. It was 2,364 feet. But here's a fun one I did several years back when I biked across the whole UK from Land's End to John O'Groats. I stopped at a place that I thought was the farthest north I'd been in my life. It was a little place called East May, M-E-Y. Who knows what that is? You can see it on that map. If you look at it, you can see I'm way up in Scotland, the northern point of Scotland right there. So if you want to get an idea where I was in the UK, and I marked it so I could remember how far north I was. Just a fun little app. I like it. If you ever have some reason to want to record anything, or like when I was going over the mountains in Scotland, which by the way aren't very high. Here's one I stayed at, Glenshee, so I can remember how high that was. Altimeter is fun. Another fun one. Oh, sorry. And you can see I've got orbits on my phone right here. And I've got this one. Here's Deutsche Bahn. So this is DB Navigator. So if you're in Germany and you want to make a train reservation, you can do it right from your phone. It will save your ticket for you, and they'll scan your ticket off your phone. So I really like that. I've used one for Scotland. There's one for France. Pretty much all the national railroads have that. that you can use. A couple other places. As you can see, some of the regulars that I do on my laptop, Booking.com, Airbnb, all have versions for the phone. Probably a lot of you are familiar with Waze or Inrix. Those are traffic apps. And my wife and I live a few miles from Interstate 81, which is notorious in Virginia for having one accident per day. So we always check our traffic app before we get on Interstate 81, especially if we're going somewhere and we're thinking, how much time do we need? Because we have spent an hour and a half stuck in traffic jams on Interstate 81. I'm going to show you one other cool one here, and it is this thing called Hopper. And Hopper is only available as an app on your phone. So I'm not sure what you would find online. A few years ago, I started using it online, but then they said they were pushing people out to their phone app. And what is cool about Hopper is you can, so I remember I was saying before, let's say you know that my window of travel is the last half of October for 2 weeks, and I want to go to one of these two places. You can put into Hopper where you want to go, when you want to go, and it will keep an eye on flights for you. So here's one that I'm watching right now, which is Washington, D.C. to Paris, July 28th through August 12th. This is, by the way, a made-up itinerary. I wish I were going there, but I'm not planning on doing it. And it will, I've already saved that time and destination. And Hopper, now it's like little bunny, he's going out and he's finding me the latest price on that. And hopefully he won't take too long to find that latest price. We can talk about the weather while we're waiting for the little Hopper bunny. You know, I'm going to cancel that for the moment. Oh, there it is. Can you believe it? Look at that. The current lowest price is $349 between July 28th and August 12th. Oh my gosh, I got to look at this. Seriously. So I scroll down here. It says that I'm watching it. And if I scroll down, I can, and look at this little thing. This is what I love. Price prediction. It says until May 28th, prices will vary. All right. So it's telling me for about the next 5 to 6 weeks, they're going to vary, go up, down, up a bit, down a bit. Then it says from May 21st to July 12th, it says they're probably going to rise. But look, that only by $57. And then it tells you, however, on July 13th, 2 weeks before it, they're going to climb a lot. So expect to pay $284 more. So this is a good price. But I love this price prediction thing right here. Okay. Now, if I were down here wanting to know, well, what is that actual flight? Then I click on view flights and they're telling me that $349 flight is on TAP, TAP, which is the Portuguese national airline. Okay. It tells you over here that it takes 11 hours and 55 minutes to get that cheap flight. And there's going to be one stop in Lisbon. Hey, I can do Lisbon. One of my tips, my travel tips is if you're flying overseas, fly directly overseas. And what I mean is get out of the US from one place. And then if you haven't got a couple places overseas, well, you're already over there. I've had bad experiences making connecting flights out of the US or Canada to an overseas destination. I have some horror stories on that, including a 2-day delay. But if I'm looking on Delta United, oh, they're charging $834. Okay, well that cheap flight is TAP, and TAP, the Portuguese airline, is trying to get back customers. So that's actually a bona fide airline and flight. So that's something worthwhile. So if you have this inkling to go to Paris in July, not sure you could get into Paris in July. In fact, you might not be able to get into Paris in July. And I don't know what's going to be open or what restrictions are going to be. This is just kind of a dummy flight, but that's a really good price. I also have one. Now here's this one. I've got October 6th to October 21st in Rome is another one of my flights that I'm watching. You can do this thing with Hopper called Price Freeze, where if you see a good flight, but you aren't ready to pull the trigger on it that day, you can put a price freeze on for a small fee, and it will hold that reservation at that price for you for a fixed period of time. The longer you want it to be held, the more it's going to cost you. if none of these flights are ones you want, you go up to flights and you just say, I'm leaving from Washington, D.C. And it, by the way, it gives me all three of the airports. Let's say I want to go to Munich, M-U-N-I-C-H. Did I spell that? Munich, Germany. It pulls up Munich, Germany down there. And now it brings up a calendar and it gives me my available travel times. Notice the different colors. So you see here, if you're going to pay $700 or more for a round trip, that's red. Orange is going to be 600 or more. Kind of amber is 500 or more, and 400 or more. Those are the kind of greenish blue are the best times. So I can scroll down on my phone. I can say, you know what? It looks like September 8th through 22nd, or let's say the 23rd. I want to go 2 weeks in a day. Those are good dates. Okay, so now Hopper's going to go out and the little bunny's running and he's finding my flights for me. And then I can save that as a search I want to use in the future and it will remind me. And here's what's really cool. If there's an excellent price and Hopper thinks, look at that, $405. Look what it says. You should book now. Hopper hasn't seen a price this low for the past 6 months. Well, the past 6 months have not been normal. So I'm showing you an app in an unusual time, travel time. But I like this because it'll give you advice. Is it perfect? No, but it's very good. I've read in the past that Hopper is the best guess. I've also heard Google flights are pretty good, but I'll stick with Hopper for the moment. If that flight becomes dirt cheap, even better price than this, Hopper will just send me an alert and tell me that. If the price starts to rise and Hopper thinks that the prices are going to continue to rise, it will tell me that. It'll send me an alert and say, hey, prices are going up on that Munich flight. And you better pick that up now if you want to get. So I click on watching like that, and now it is saving it. And let's say I want to watch a nonstop flight only. I click on the watch nonstop. Now it's out thinking again. So these are all settings I can put on my phone. This is really valuable if you're flying. And by the way, this is not just international flights. This could be to Chicago, could be to Houston, anywhere you want to go. You can just set those parameters in there. Look at that. The current low price is $1,126 nonstop. Ooh, okay. Well, I think maybe I don't want to go nonstop. But here down the way, here by the way, are the price predictions again, up and down until June 11th. Prices are going to vary as low as $590. So that's one of my favorite flying apps. I really like Hopper and the little bunny hops. Booking.com, by the way, is a good app to use. It is one I do like to use on my phone. It's pretty easy. It's a very user-friendly. Actually, Orbitz is too on your phone. We're starting to run out of time. I'm going to stop there and I am going to stop sharing as well so I can see everybody and bring us all back together and ask if there are more questions about anything I've shown you so far, or comments or further suggestions from all of you, any of you experienced travelers.
Russ, we use the world clock when we're traveling. Well, I use it here a lot also, but when we're traveling so that we'll know what time it is and maybe another destination where we're going, or even just to be able to call back home and quickly know what time it is.
Good. Yes, very good. And in one of my, I'm getting ready to do a class in about 2 weeks called Top 10 Travel Tips. And one of those is if you are traveling internationally, it is a good idea to, when you land, get a SIM card for that country and put it in your phone and you will save money. So for example, I think when I last time I went without a SIM card was 2018. I went to Spain for 5 weeks and I used Verizon Wireless's international plan. I think it was $40, and I accidentally burned through my data in about 3 days because I left an app on that I shouldn't have. I was mostly using my phone and Wi-Fi. It was kind of there for emergencies. And so quickly added up, went beyond $40. And when I went to Spain to Italy in 2019, my wife and I stopped in a TIM store, TIM. That's one of the national cell phone companies in Italy, and I had a SIM card put in my phone, cost me $40. But with it, I got an excellent plan. I think I had 15 gigabytes of data, which is like more than I would even use at home. I had lots of minutes of calls, and I got to keep the SIM card. So next time I go back to Italy, I can just put that SIM card back in my phone. And now the plan will only cost me $20. And I had the person put it in and figure out all the settings. What's nice about that, if you don't have to worry about your phone, as Ivy mentioned, your phone will automatically reset to the local time. I happen to have a hybrid watch. It looks like a regular analog watch with the hands on it, but it is connected to my phone. So it does track steps, which I don't use a whole lot. But what I like about it is when I have traveled internationally and I land somewhere, as soon as my phone hooks up to the local data or knows where I am, my watch changes the time, which is kind of fun. Switches to the current time zone. But thanks, Ivy, for that. Yes, use international clock. Any more questions, or anybody got any suggestions? Anything that ideas you have that I should mention next time? Things you've used? I didn't show you TripAdvisor, but I recommend TripAdvisor. I liked what Rick Steve said last night about TripAdvisor. He said he likes it. He doesn't like it so much for hotel. And there was one other kind of advice, airline and hotel, but he really likes it for things to do in a location. He's right. People will often write reviews. And I think that's one of the ways my wife and I have found out about what local city tours, which is another class I'm going to talk about, how to do a local city tour for free. Or let me put it this way. The tour is free. You can give money at the end. Please do whatever you felt it was worth to you. We've done lots of these free tours in many places, and we really have enjoyed it. And we've always left some money for the tour guide who took the group. So I've done everything from a coffee plantation in Colombia to a walk along the Irish coast to tours in York and Munich, free city tours where I found out stuff that wasn't in the guidebooks. So you've been a great group. Please, after the class is over, you will get an email with some more notes, and also you will get an opportunity to give feedback. Tell me how I can make this class better. I'm always looking for ways to improve either my teaching or the classes I do. And please come back to other classes. I am doing lots of travel classes. Every day you should see stuff about travel. Tomorrow I'm talking at 1:00 about the pilgrimage that my wife and I made in Italy in 2019. It was actually the last time I got on an airplane, flew to Rome and back, but walked through the Umbrian Mountains to Assisi. And next week at 11:00, I'll be talking about the bike trip I took last year. I mentioned going Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. So when I couldn't go anywhere internationally, I got on my bike and I took a Rails to Trails from Pittsburgh to Washington. And of course, tonight we have our continuing Rick Steves series. This is Foodie Wednesday. So come find out about some great international cuisines you can enjoy. And tomorrow afternoon is Art Thursday, and Friday is history, and we'll be doing a little bit more about the history of communism in Europe. Thanks everyone for participating, and I really liked having you all. Was glad to have you with us, and I'll check any more of the comments you put in the chat right now. Thanks for doing that. It's a great resource for me, and I hope to see you in some more travel classes. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Or morning.
Bye-bye.
Bye.